0. To refuse this call, hang up or press 1. To prevent calls from this facility, press. Your current balance is $44.81.
A lot of money.
This call is from a corrections facility and is subject to monitoring, recording, and the location of your phone will be obtained. For more information about our privacy policy, please visit www.connectnetwork.com. After the beep, press 5 to accept this call. This call is from a corrections facility and is subject to monitoring, recording, and the location of your phone will be obtained. Stay on the line to accept this call. Thank you for using GTL.
Don't consent to recording on this call. Have you prepaid for this?
Good morning, sunshine. Yes, we have.
Okay. I don't want y'all to accept anything if it hadn't been prepaid because it's too dang expensive. I just trying to call to let. I couldn't get a hold of Mr. True. He was going to come visit, I guess, a week ago and didn't. I sent him a letter, and it came back to me. I sent it 2 weeks ago, and it came back and said not deliverable. So I didn't know if he's changed addresses, but I wanted to let him know that the address that he gave me, I'm not able to get a letter to him.
Okay. What else is new?
I was listening to a radio show. I found a new station that's there's a group called SAF.org, which stands for Second Amendment Foundation, and supposedly they are involved with trying to undo this 1968 Gun Act, which is the root of all evil regarding people that have been convicted of any crime that gives you more than a year, which they call a felony. Then they claim that is the basis by which they take away your rights recognized in the Constitution to bear arms. There apparently is some cases going through the Supreme Court right now that might undo all that. But supposedly they're involved with helping people who have been charged with those unconstitutional statute offenses. And I don't have their address, so I don't know how to reach them. I thought if somebody's got access to them, maybe they could forward them my information and see if they might be interested in getting involved. Otherwise, there was another group, I believe it was the U.S. Concealed Carry Association, and I don't know what all they did. They just briefly mentioned it, but apparently they've got some kind of an organization where they actually sell, I guess, insurance or memberships or whatever. So if you're a concealed carry individual and you're ever in a situation where the cops come after you, they provide you with legal assistance to help you defeat the false charges. Because apparently there's a big push right now. Obviously, the government is trying to disarm everybody any way they can, and so they're trying to forcefully take people's guns, claiming that they're prohibited people because once you've ever been convicted of certain types of crimes, regardless if you're innocent or not, they claim that you can never, ever own a gun the rest of your life, which is insane. The whole nonsense, the notion of once and done, means there is no restitution, which, as the Redeemer, Christ would reject that because it's all about restoration. And, you know, once somebody has, if they actually owed a debt, which to the United States corporation, nobody owes a thing. And all of these, what they call process crimes and crimes against the state, where there's no victim, this is just a business creating business. It's feeding the gate, as it were. But yet, the general public doesn't understand that. They're ignorant to what's really going on, and they think we got to hold these people accountable. Even if you fall into that camp, when does a person have his debt paid? Is it you can't pay the debt? Is it that way for life? Well, then if so, then how can you call yourself a Christian or a follower of Christ? Because Christ was about setting the captives free, paying the debt, redemption. And if we can't forgive our fellow man, as Christ taught, then where are we?
We're in hell, Mike.
better half?
He's here taking a shower. Are you talking about the Demaya SCOTUS case?
I'm not talking about that. I don't have enough information to be able to speak intelligently about it, but I did get some information from you, and I appreciate that.
Okay. So it's another SCOTUS, but they haven't made a decision?
I got in halfway through the conversation with this group. It was a radio program that was on Sunday night, and they were talking about these two groups, and they were talking about supposedly there's some Supreme Court. They're not going on right now, but they're going to be in the next session having to do with Second Amendment. And I believe what they were talking about was going after this federal law that's unconstitutional, that Title 18, Section 922 in whole, but effectively little g, little 1, which says if you've ever been convicted of a felony, then or a crime that can put you in jail for more than a year, then you can never own a gun for the rest of your life. Now, there's exceptions in there, including that your rights can be restored, but the fact is that you never lose your God-given rights. You can't restore something that was never legally taken from you. But because these people that call themselves U.S. citizens reduce themselves to lesser government agents, they join a club effectively through deception and fraud, they are converted into a thing or a lesser government agent who converts his God-given rights into privileges. And so now they're viewing it as a privilege issue as opposed to a God-given right. Well, what I'm trying to get people to do is wake up to the fact that you can't give up something that was given to you by God. You don't have a right to give that up. The right is yours. You know, your right to life is yours. That's why it's a sin to commit suicide. You know, the Bible's very clear about that. You're not supposed to take innocent life, period. And people tend to, you know, convert man's law as somehow conforming with God's law when it's totally opposed to God's law.
Mm-hmm.
Man's law is supportive of the club. As they say, God made man, man made a club, the club made rules, codes, regulations, and statutes for the maids and the butlers to care for those people in the club. And if you're not in the club, then you have no interest in that stuff. And that's the thing, that we as free people, if you read the Constitution before the Civil War, it referenced in all the amendments the right of the people, the right of the people, the right of the people. And then after the Civil War, it started saying the right of the citizen of the United States. Well, why did they change that? Because that's a lesser government agent. That's a lower form of life. You're no longer a human being recognized as a child of God.
I never noticed that before, the right of the citizen versus the right of the people. Hey, what do you think?
Look it up.
I follow. What do you think about this open border thing?
Which one? Over here or in Palestine?
No, I don't pay any attention to anything but really Texas and the United States here.
Right. Here's the thing. I'm all about freedom of movement. I think that everyone should have the ability to travel as they see fit. And if the people in these locations want to regulate commerce or stuff like importation of large, the Jay Treaty actually recognized the right of the Native Americans to travel across the borders between Canada and the United States, and they could carry with them their personal possessions, excluding large bundles. And what they were talking about, you can have a lot of property if it's yours. They didn't want you competing with them in the areas of commerce. Now, that only had to do with international trade between the natives and the white man. It had nothing to do with you carrying your own stuff or you're trading between natives and natives. Even in the Section 8 of the article, I think it's Article 1, Section 8, it talks about the Congress shall have the power to, and you drop down, regulate commerce between the states and other nations. That means if a state wants to engage in commerce with a foreign nation, Congress can regulate that. But Congress has no power, was never delegated. These powers are powers that come from we the people. The people never delegated for Congress to have the power to regulate we the people's possessions or we the people's right to trade or engage in commerce with each other or with other people, nations, states, anything. That's only between the state. The state is a creation, not the people. God created the people. The federal government's created the states.
Okay, but what do you think about people coming from Mexico with no, without going through the due process?
Well, that's a mixed bag, because the reality is that the United States is a corporation posing as government. If I'm going to be intellectually honest, I have to stand on the fact that the United States has no authority over these people, no more than they have over us. And the reality is that before this was called the United States, there are people that live there. Native Americans lived there long before anybody. And, the Louisiana Purchase, think about this. The French sold this land to the United States, but guess what? The French didn't own it. The Native Americans lived there. It was their land. And just because someone moves in, and this is where I was getting with Palestine, realize these people over in Israel, if you've ever been over there and look at your World Book Encyclopedia, religions of the Middle East, countries, religions, you'll find that there's only two countries in all of the Middle East that totally oppose Christianity. Only two countries. Do you know which countries totally oppose Christianity in the Middle East?
Saudi Arabia and no, I guess Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia is one, and the other is Israel.
Israel. Oh, right, of course. How could I forget?
Most people don't know this. They think that because the United States historically has supported Israel, that they must be supportive of a Christian existence, just as this is supposed to be a Christian nation. But the fact is that Israel, if you go over there, and I've had many, many people I've talked to that have been there at the Wailing Wall, knock yourself out. But get away from the Wailing Wall and try to proselytize. They will tell you, oh, you're an American. Well, you can't do that here. You got to leave. So you go back to the Wailing Wall and you leave the country.
That's
now,
fair.
if you're not an American, if you're somebody that lives there and you're proselytizing Christianity, they put you in jail.
Yeah.
You got a tier system over there. The Israelis are not bloodline Hebrew. The people of that land are the Palestinians. The people that were related to Christ are the people of the Palestine nation. And the reality is that European Ashkenazi Jews were Europeans. They adopted the Jewish religion because they didn't want to be involved with the Christians or the Muslims and get involved in the wars back in that time. I think it was in the 1400s. But they created the religion of their choice, which is fine, but they have no right to that land. That was not their land. The hereditary people that lived there, the people that were the descendants of the disciples and Christ's family, they're still there. They're called Palestinians. Oh, and if you go to Palestine, you'll find that I think it's about 20% of the population is Christian, and they get along fine. They get along fine with the Jews that are in Palestine. Oh, yeah, there's Jews in Palestine. And this group Hamas that they claim is the one rising up to everybody, Hamas is a creation of the Israeli government.
Yeah, okay,
now,
before we get cut off here, Richard did move, but you should have his correct address. And
okay.
He needs to go down to the jail and talk to you, I guess, in person.
Okay.
And he's been slammed at work trying to get a chance to put money on your books.
Well, I appreciate that. I was just, I know he's busy, and when he didn't show up, I figured it was business related. But when I got the letter back, I thought, maybe they're monkeying with the mail here, because I realized it took, 3 weeks for the letter to get to y'all.
Yeah, they do monkey with the mail, but he says you should have his correct address.
You have 1 minute remaining.
When's your?
If you know it.
I don't know it. When's your trial?
I don't know. since they've appointed this lawyer to counsel me, he's given me no counsel, and I've gotten no information. I've got nothing in the mail from the court, so I don't know what's been filed. I don't know anything about any scheduling. Literally, I'm in the dark.
Okay.
And he's not taking my calls, so I'm thinking the only reason the guy's been appointed was to basically give the court jurisdiction.
I think you should check out PANDA, People Against North American Authorization Act. Because that's how they've got you held, probably, is with this indefinite detention before your trial and no bail.
Okay. If anybody can send me information about that, of course, I don't have access to the internet or any kind of research on that, but I'm more than happy to.
Okay, it's called PANDA. And I think they're in Idaho. I think they passed it in Idaho.
Thank you for using GTL.